Hi, welcome to Blacticulate, a podcast series featuring UK young black professionals, where we find out how they do what they do, so you can too. Or not. After all, it is your life. Welcome to another episode of Blacticulate. You already know. Well, actually, I hope you already know. We feature young UK black professionals trying to extract exactly how it is they do what they do, so you can too. So today's guest, he's nothing short of amazing, honestly. He's brilliant. His name is Ola the Comedian, and we caught up with him just to discuss what life is like as a comedian and how he got into it. It was just really fascinating just to get his take on him being a black man in the industry. And I hope you guys, if you are thinking about having a career as a comedian, that this might help you. At the very least, you know someone's doing it, someone from our background, someone who looks like us, someone who's Ninja, who loves his jollof. No, seriously, that's what he had for breakfast when I met him, jollof rice. Because he had to. But overall, guys, as always, please do give us any feedback if there is anything that we haven't asked, if it's a career that you do and there are other bits that you can help teach, then please do get in touch. Please do review us, please do share, do comment. Without further ado, we bring to you Ola the Comedian.
Jollof rice.
I went straight for jollof, you know. No brekkie. Proper Niger.
Of course, man. My wife made the banging jollof, so I was like, forget all that fruit and fiber. It's a waste of time. Let's get down to the real deal.
That jollof that gives you that sturdy belly.
It just gives you life, man.
It gives you life.
For the whole day, I'm still buzzing off that one meal. Nah, I'm joking, I ate again, but nice.
Yeah, for sure. Jollof for life. All right, cool. So let's kick off. All right. What up, guys? Once again, you already know what this is. Blacticulate. You know, black stories, positive actions. And in front of me, I always have amazing people. And today is no different. It never is any different. Whenever you hear the content, it's all about positivity. It's all about amazing millennials doing great things. And in front of me, I've got Ola the Comedian.
Yeah.
Say what on, Ola.
Well done. Just because you told me to say it, I would have said hello.
Would you have said hello?
I would have said hello. Bow me.
Hey!
You see?
Put that Yoruba.
Yeah, you know, we got culture out here. Cultured fellas, man. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well,
thank you for having me on, man.
No, it's an absolute pleasure.
I like how you started off the podcast. I didn't know if it was like a podcast or a hip hop cipher. You was like, you already know what it is. It's about to be yours. It's Ola.
That's actually reminds me. It reminds me. Did you get onto a show in the US and the host, she pretty much brought you on by saying he's got a sexy name?
Oh my goodness,
Ola,
yeah.
She was
that was wild, man.
She was really feeling it.
She really got into my name, man. She was like, Ola. His name is just so sexy. Ola. Then DJ put on like some slow jam instrumental. She just say my name on the. I can't lie, you know.
Got hot underneath the collar.
A little bit, you know, like I was feeling myself a little bit. Okay, maybe this comedy thing's for me, you know. I'm killing the game this much.
Alright, let's speak about your comedy, because predominantly that's how I come to know you, and you are fundamentally one of the best comedians I know.
Oh, wow. You don't know that many comedians.
No, you're right. You're actually the only comedian I know.
Oh, snap. But I'm the best and the worst.
Hold tight though, but in a sense where people think they're funny, myself included, I like to think I'm funny.
Okay.
But I can't ever say I'm a professional comedian.
Of course not.
Right? So actually, how do you break that down? How do you decide that you are professional as opposed to someone who just thinks they're funny?
Well, I mean, there are many markers, you know. First of all, the fact that comedy clubs actually pay me to go out and do this, that kind of marks some of that professional aspect of it. I feel like artistically, the moment you decide that making people laugh is a means to an end, that's when you become a professional comedian. You see, like when people go to a comedy show, it's not because there's no one else who can make them laugh. Most people have a family member, friend, they have a YouTube video, or they have something that can make them laugh.
Yeah.
When they come to see you as a comedian, they kind of want a certain level of mastery. Like, you have mastered this art so much that it's almost guaranteed I'm gonna laugh.
Yeah.
And you're just gonna give me a snippet of art in laughter form, right? So
No, I get that.
yeah,
That's
you know what I'm saying. So,
beautiful, yeah.
so people do different things with it. Some people use it to challenge society. Some people use it to challenge the government and to be political. Some people use it just to spread information. Some people use it just to try and make you forget about stuff, or to try and like remind you of what stuff is and show you the funny side of it. But either way, what most professional comedians realize is that you get past the point where you stop trying to make people laugh.
Okay.
That's what makes a lot of people not funny, is the fact that they're trying to make you laugh.
Right.
When a comedian takes up his job, most of the time, I might say I'm trying to make you laugh, whatever. You're not trying to make you laugh anymore, because you get to a point where you realize, I can do that. That's done.
That's
now,
easy.
Now where do I go from here?
Okay.
And so it's
And
like
there's
you
that-
as a person starts to grow now.
But then I actually read somewhere that you said you want your comedy to be useful. So what do you mean by that?
I mean, in general, I want to be useful as a person.
Yeah, we've had that conversation
Yeah.
literally just upstairs.
Exactly.
Right?
When I was getting this nice ass hazelnut mocha that
I tell you what,
sipping
Ola,
on
yeah.
right now.
Don't let that jollof rice in the morning fool you, man. Man
let
is
it fool you,
bougie,
man.
bruv. He's bougie.
I'll still order a hazelnut mocha in a second. You don't even know.
He
You don't
ordered
even
it,
know.
and he even told her how to make it. You should have got that syrup right. You should.
She didn't quite get it right. The espresso is not quite the right espresso, but you know how it is. You have to say, you have to give them a chance. They're still trying to come up.
Yeah, they're still trying to go.
Trying to come up in the game. It's not everyone that knows how to make a good hazelnut mocha. But anyway,
So yeah, tell us about this. What you mean by being useful? You
I feel like it's more of a life philosophy, you know. Like, I don't really want to come to this world and then leave, and people just like, oh, Ola's gone. Okay, I guess so. And life carries on as normal, right? Like, I want it to be a case of, I made a mark, and there was a reason why I lived. I want to live a life of purpose. I want to live an extraordinary life, an exceptional life. I want to do exceptional things. And so even in the way I approach comedy, it's like I want the comedy to have use in society. But the way I always think about it is this. If you're in a post-apocalyptic society,
Oh, wow,
and
okay.
everything was like falling apart, I know people don't necessarily think, oh, we need the comedians, let's save the comedian. If let's say we had to think about who we're going to sacrifice to the dragon, or who we're going to kill and eat, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You start looking at how people are useful to society. We might say, okay, we need to keep the doctors. You might say we need to keep that guy, he has good leadership skills. We need to keep that guy, he's strong. But I would like to believe that if we were building a society, comedians have a part to play. Not just in the comic relief, but also because comedians kind of become almost like the philosopher kings of our day. You know, the people who are at the forefront of thought, people who are pushing new ideas, people who are changing the way that we look at things. Comedians have done a lot. You can't imagine how much comedians have done towards changing public attitudes to certain things, like race and gender and homosexuality and so on. Like, the fact that comedians have that power of making you laugh almost means they can say anything to you. And a lot of the best comedians... Sorry.
Hey, no, it is what it is, guys. You know, I'm trying to find a quiet spot out here, but it's a nightmare.
It's like
Central
when you
London.
find a quiet spot, someone comes and goes, oh, it's way too quiet over here.
Yeah,
I
let's
need to
just-
make some noise. Let me just smash a few things around. Let me turn my radio on. Let me just walk right past you.
Fair.
Just look at what you're doing.
Yeah. But what's interesting is you're saying basically, do you reckon comedians are the unsung heroes then? Because you say they change our perception, and
It's not even
it's very
unsung
different.
heroes, because I feel like being a comedian, you can get a bit self-involved. It can be a bit self-aggrandizing. So I'm not going to go so far as to say we are unsung heroes, but there was definitely a time I'm going to go further back, but let's say even in ancient Greek times, where you would have philosophers like Socrates and Aristotle, and they would be at the forefront of thought. They would say things, wise things. People would gather to listen to them, and they would take this knowledge and this wisdom out into their life, and it would affect society.
Yeah.
Right? But nowadays, we don't necessarily gather around to hear anyone give us wisdom, unless you're particularly religious and you do that every week by going to church, mosque, etc. So what the vast masses of society do is gather for entertainment. So the messages that entertainers give often serve the purpose of what Aristotle or Socrates would have done in the past.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way.
Well, this is it. So when you when you realize that position that you have, you then say, okay, so what's my use here? My use here is to disseminate the kind of information and wisdom that's going to change society. And I'm going to do that by holding a mirror up to society, satirizing society, by just basically saying the things that people almost need to hear, the things they need to hear, but wouldn't necessarily want to hear or go and hear it themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need, because you have that medium of laughter, I can tell white people about racism, and they will accept it quicker if I'm making them laugh while I'm telling them, as opposed to if I gave a lecture that just made them feel attacked and sort of
instantly go into defense. Yeah,
exactly. So that's why I feel that's the kind of use I see comedy having. And that's why I feel the need that there's a bigger purpose to all of this than to just be funny, because you can be funny like tripping over and falling, and there's nothing wrong with nothing wrong with clowning and so on. That has its part and its place. But for me, I always say there's a difference between a clown and a comedian. One has something to say, and I came to be a comedian
that has something to say.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, guys, we can do multiple things, right? And I always say this on the podcast, so whilst you're at it, man, type in, how do we get to you? How can we see some of your stuff? OlaTheComedian.com.
OlaTheComedian.com. All my social media is on there, but it's like everything is Ola the Comedian. OLATHE. Stop asking me if it's the or da. It's the Ola the Comedian. And if you type that into Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, it'll pop up.
So, I mean, honestly, as you're listening to Ola speak, hopefully you're also seeing why his comedy is the way it is, because it's intellectual. There's some depth. I mean, there's layers. Honestly, I walked away listening to your set and still thinking back and going, that was smart.
I appreciate that, man.
No, 100%. Now, I want to almost then bring this into what I do here in terms of trying to give useful tips and, resources and how-tos almost, like, guides for people who want to aspire to be comedians. Like, let's start with your background, for instance. How did you know you wanted to do this? I mean, where you growing up? What was this? Did you have to tell a lot of jokes to stay out of trouble? It's not one of them lifestyles. I mean,
to be honest, I've tried to chart it back, because I don't necessarily have all the same traits as every other comedian started out. I have some similarities. Being bullied as a kid, I used to get bullied for being smart. That was my thing.
Okay.
Because I did well in school, it drew other kids teasing and whatnot, and then you start to have to decide who you want to be as a human being. You start going, well, do I want to dumb myself down, or am I going to look at them and say, no, there's something wrong with you, I'm going to be excellent in what I do.
Yeah.
And my mom always tried to encourage me to continue to be excellent, that it's their own jealousies and whatnot that make them tease you for doing that, but you can't let that stop you from being excellent. So even though I'm now like in comedy, it's not an academic sphere, there is a certain amount to which I still I'm very headstrong about being somewhat intellectual about my comedy, even when it's not convenient to be. Where I'd probably do better by just being stupid and simple, I would rather stick to who I am.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Because of that background. I know that when I was growing up as a child, I perceived a lot of injustice, and kids' injustice is very different from like adult injustice, but it was like still injustice to me. One time a girl in school, and it sounds funny to say I was bullied by a girl, but this is real talk. Her mom was our teacher, and her auntie was the headmistress, right? So she got away with murder.
Yeah.
And me and my friends, we made like paper airplanes. We flew them in the playground. One landed near her foot, so she stepped on it. She picked it up. She ripped it up, looking at me in the eye, like, "Yeah, I'm doing it. Now what? Take that." And I couldn't do. I think I pushed her or something like that. Like, "Why'd you do that for?"
Yeah.
Then I now got in trouble with her mom. Mom's like, "I don't want to hear about blah blah blah. You shouldn't push a girl." I was like, "You shouldn't push a girl? What is this? Is there no sense of fairness here?" Like, so when I grew up, and I was always looking at things like these sort of dogmatic rules, like, oh, you can't push a girl, so we're just going to completely ignore everything that happened beforehand.
Yeah.
I was like, well, someone needs to speak about that situation and how it exists in real life. We have these rules. I understand why we have these rules, but we also need to talk about the fact that there are clearly some women abusing these rules. Yeah. That's an injustice in my life as far as that's concerned. Girls were like my looking for the fancy word for like your
Don't make it
Your
fancy.
nemesis. You're just basically your nemesis.
Just
Let's
keep
say
it
your
kill.
nemesis.
Yeah.
But I had the word in my head, but I forgot it. But I couldn't find it. But you know what it is.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
girls were like my nemesis. Like at that point in my life, you know, because it just seemed like girls got away with everything. Girls had my younger sister had no responsibility. She could pinch me, and if I hit her back, I got in trouble. In school, it was the same way. Girls never had to carry the heavy stuff and so on. So, it's funny for me because I grew up into a world and we talk about male privilege, we talk about why we need feminism and so on. But in that small world, for me, that was an injustice growing up as a male in what seemed like a very female-dominated world. So I was like, I wish there was a way someday I could just stand up and like say what's on my mind and people listen. Like I want to give speeches and stuff like that. But I was just like, I don't understand like how you would get into that as a career. So I just kind of put it aside. I didn't even ever consider it as a thing. It's only now when I go back that I realized I was that person.
Yeah.
I didn't watch stand-up comedy properly until I'd say my teen years. But even then I just loved it. I just found it like amazing. But never considered it as something I could do.
What were you then, since that was something, I guess, secondary, what was your primary focus, or was it something your parents pushing you towards?
I was always.
What were you studying?
I was at GCSE I did everything like triple science, maths, all that kind of stuff.
Smashed it.
I did Spanish and arts and whatnot. I did all kinds of stuff, right? I did a whole range of
because
stuff.
You could.
I did 10 GCSEs. I think I got like 4 A stars and 6 A's or whatever. So I was kind of in that position where I could do almost anything I wanted. And I think at one point I wanted to like make computer games or whatever. And I wanted to do something technological. I always seemed to be like pretty good with computers and that kind of stuff. By the time I got to like A level, I'd settled on investment banking.
Oh wow, okay.
And that was what I was going to do because basically I had...
Just out of interest, so the audience know, where did you grow up?
In Croydon.
In Croydon?
Yeah.
Right, you still live in Croydon, don't you?
Still live in Croydon. Thornton Heath, born and raised, lived in like 5 different houses, all in Thornton Heath.
Yeah.
About that Thornton Heath life. Yeah. And
shout out to anyone in Thornton Heath.
So yeah, and I went to Trinity School in Shirley, and when I left Trinity, I was
all the way
like,
to sixth form, was this?
Yeah, all the way to sixth form. When I left Trinity, I was like, well, I've always sort of been in these elite institutions, always been like pushing towards the top of the class. I'm always like really good in that field. So I just need to be in like the best company to work for. And the plan was that I would go and work for an investment bank. I'd go make a stack of money, and then I'd go become an international businessman and retire by 40 or whatever. I don't know, but just
sounds very Niger influenced, by the parents.
Exactly. So I just wanted to do something that would make other people proud, basically. And it was while I was at uni I began to realize that
what uni did you go
life
to?
wasn't for me. Pardon?
What uni did you go to?
I went to the London School of Economics. So yeah, that just all contributed to that.
Yeah, of course. You're definitely seen in a different light as well.
That whole psyche of like, I go to the best place. Like, I need to find the best university for finance and stuff like that. And yeah, London School of Economics, number 3 in the tables for best unis in the country, best one for economics, best one for account. No, it was second best. No, it was best for economics at the time. I keep switching with UCL. And then it was like best for accounting and finance, which was my course. So I had that complex in my head that I wear and do. I'm going to be the best at it. But I began to realize I wanted to be an investment banker for all the wrong reasons. Just to like show off, prove to people. I wanted to wear a suit, put a newspaper under my arm, and carry an umbrella and catch the train and be looking spiffy and whatnot. Like,
that's very interesting that was your aspiration.
That was my aspiration. I just
that's
wanted people to look at me
middle.
and be like, that guy is the guy. You see what I'm saying? Like, I wanted people to look at me and be like, yeah, he's doing it. Now, I guess it can creep in because you're human. You want people to sort of recognize your achievements, but at the same time, now I'm way less concerned with that kind of thing. Now I'm much more focused on purpose.
Yeah.
In that previous mind frame, I could have lived a whole life trading stocks, and I could be trading like subprime mortgages, and I could watch people get kicked out of their houses, and I would have been like, yeah, I'm making money
and sleep comfortably.
And sleep comfortably, because I'd be like, yeah, I'm at the cutting edge. I'm doing what I'm doing. Now I guess I'm a bit more concerned about the state I leave the world in, and like my purpose in life. So, and it's not just to acquire paper that has pictures of white people on it. Like, it's Now it's like, well, let's realize this is like life. You're given this journey, you're given this time, this weird sort of experience, this weird sort of lifespan, this point in time to do something. Let me make that time stand out, as opposed to just try and play it the best.
The Ola, you jumped, because I want to get that, because obviously there was a catalyst for that. You are LSC, investment banking course, en route to become a very successful investment banker, whatever that image was in your head. What was that part where you're like, nah?
So what happened was, I was okay, so like throughout I'd say my first year, I like really fell in love with stand-up, really. And I've given like the full story on other platforms and stuff, so I won't go into too much detail, but let's just say I had a really fast internet connection for the first time.
Okay.
Right, so I left home and I moved into halls. I got my own laptop and I got like a really fast internet connection. First day is just start downloading videos.
Fast internet connection.
You know, when you get a fast internet connection, you feel like the world is at your fingertips. Everything was at my fingertips. So I just downloaded a bunch of videos, and a big proportion of my videos I was downloading was stand-up. Because I was like, this is great to have. Like, I can watch all the stand-up I want now. Like, I remember a friend of mine had got like one of those, like the previous sort of love film kind of subscription thing, where you post a DVD and they post you one. Like, he did that, and he'd got a couple of Death Comedy Jam ones.
Nice.
I'd seen the adverts on TV, and I'd watched a couple of those. He also lent me Original Kings of Comedy, because he bought that on pirate from the barbershop or whatever. So I'd seen those as well as at school. Now I could download all of them. I could just watch them all. Funny enough, this very same friend of mine still ended up giving me my first ever show, my first ever booking. So he's so intertwined with my destiny as a stand-up. And I always let him know how much I appreciate him for that.
We're definitely going to get to that, because I want to know about your first stand-up gig.
We'll get there as well.
We'll get there.
So I'm falling in love with stand-up, and I'm almost on the level of obsession, to the point where I'm waking up in the morning, I want to watch stand-up. Going to bed at night, want to watch stand-up. I'm in lectures, and we had the video iPods back then. We had the one with the dial and scrolling. Anyway, so I would convert it to audio files so I could listen to it on my iPod while I'm in lectures. Because I'm like, oh, this set lasts an hour, the lecture's an hour. I could listen to the whole thing through the lecture. I had no interest in work. And what began to happen was I realized, at uni, the big jump from school to uni is that at uni, when you study something, you have to study it with passion.
Yeah.
In school, you can kind of just pay attention, you can game the system, learn what you need to learn to get it right and get the marks. But in uni, it was like, your teachers aren't trying to help you get good grades. That's not what their aim is. Their aim is to encourage the next great mind or whatever it is. So wherever you're studying, you have to really want to study. You have to want to go and do your own reading. I wasn't going to do my own reading. I was like watching more and more stand-up. And what then happened was, okay, so towards the end of first year now, there's that bit after exams and before you go away on holiday where you still have your halls of residence, but you ain't got no lectures, you ain't got nothing to do. And I had a girlfriend at the time, and we bought the Def Comedy Jam box set finally. I'd seen like snippets and seen one or two DVDs here and there, but I saw it like a mad offer in Virgin Megastores. Copped that straight away, and literally was like days on end of just lying in bed and getting up only to use the toilet and go and get more junk food, and just watching through the whole thing with her. And I just was like, oh my goodness. It was so inspiring in two ways. One, I was like, look at these guys, Chappelle, Rock, Jamie Foxx, all these guys were on here. Now look at who they are. It's like, it was inspiring. The other side was like, some of these guys on this DVD are terrible.
Yeah.
They are moist. If you made it to the DVD,
They're moist.
I could make it. Like, if you could do this, I could do it. So, like, seeing people that weren't as good also made me feel like you have to at least give it a try. So, anyway, by this point, I love stand-up. I'm watching a lot of it. Fine. Everyone knows me for the fact that Like, this is why I say that comedians are like the philosopher kings of our time, in the sense that I would almost end up bringing stand-up into any conversation people had. Like, you tell me about like someone getting drunk, and I'd be like, oh, Dave Chappelle has a really good bit about someone getting drunk. Then I'd do the bit like word for word, and people are like, this guy in his comedy, man, it was much. I would like get every time I have people around, I just want to show them stand-up. It's like, you guys, no, you need to do this. No, don't. This part's been really listen, we have to watch this. No, it's too much.
Right.
So I was just becoming that guy.
You're that guy.
Obsessed.
Yeah.
And then I came back for second year, and it was while I was in second year that my friend, the one that gave me the DVDs, his name's Sam. He was at Aston in Birmingham, and he was in the ACS, and he was like, we're putting on an award show. Will you come and rap? Because I used to rap when I was younger, and like everyone used to rap.
Right.
Like, come on, I don't know that. Did you rap at one point?
Nah.
Okay, you're one of the few black guys I know who doesn't have bars somewhere in a little scribbled up notebook.
Pop to the shop for some Golden Wonder. What flavour are you done? Of
course, you had bars. I knew it. Everyone had bars.
Yeah.
Right. So now we've established that. Pop to the shop for the Golden Wonder.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. I had bars like when I was 16 or whatever. So he was like, "You gonna perform?" I was like, "I don't rap no more, bro." But I just said to him, like, off this wave of confidence, "Yeah, but I'm doing stand up now. I've never done a show. I hadn't even written any material." And he was like, "Yeah, you did stand up? Yeah, come through."
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, okay then. And then on my way to the show, on the coach to Birmingham, I wrote my set.
Amazing.
And I had a good show. Like, people laughed. And I remember before I was about to go on stage, someone asked me, "Are you funny?" I was like, hell yeah, I'm funny. I don't even know where this confidence was coming from, because I hadn't done it yet. Even as soon as I said it, I was like, what? Who's
this guy?
I told you that.
Yeah.
But I was so confident that by the time I went out there and I did it, it was funny. Because I'd watched so much of it. So...
You knew about the time and delivery.
Exactly.
Okay, you see, you strike me as that guy then. Ola, you genuinely do. I mean, obviously, you're going to one of the most prestigious universities and doing investment banking as a course. So you're very methodical and quite meticulous. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
To the point that actually, I think you said you've heard all the black jokes and you figured out their formulas, and to you, you're bored of it.
Of course.
What is that? What is that formula? Because I don't know.
You can't explain the formula.
You can't.
But when you know it in your head, you know it. You can break it down to a few simple structures.
But that's the thing. I mean, so people listening who are also aspiring comedians, it's like, how do you,
First thing I tell them is that you just need to go watch stand-up. Like, I have a very analytical mind.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm looking at stuff, I'm always looking at, well, how does that work? So that's what I did with stand-up. And I was just able to work out, okay, so I see how you're doing this. It's cheap, it's easy. The jokes that I grew to love were the ones I couldn't figure out straight away. The ones that had a few layers to it. The ones that led you one way and then took you another. The ones that kind of took you down the rabbit hole a bit. So I was like, that's the kind of comedy I want to do. I want to do the kind of comedy that you can't just put it together. And if you look at the internet right now, there's a lot of people who think they're comedians because they're able to do that simple sort of putting stuff together. But when you look at the real comic geniuses of our time, you see that they understand laughter so much that they can give you 3 different levels. They can have... Dave Chappelle can tell a joke in the room where some people are laughing because they find his voice funny. Some people are laughing because they find his face funny. Some people are laughing because they realize how deep the political message of what he just said was. Some people are laughing because the premise was funny, like the idea of what the scene he created. But he's understood humor so much that he can cater to all those different people. And this room will all laugh. But he has, whether consciously or subconsciously, put across a great message through his ability to speak comedy.
Yeah, no, I get that. I do get that. So for me, So is there anything that you say listen to a lot of comedy, you know, watch the best, whoever your inspirations for you. You said it was Dave Chappelle, and I also read somewhere you said Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Ola, you genuinely are on the route, and I 100% believe anyone listening, guys, honestly, you need to be just checking out Ola the Comedian because he's phenomenal. Show him love, come to his shows, anything. But I do want to almost wrap it up. But I want you to.
I didn't even finish telling you how I made the switch.
Precisely. And this is where we're at because I try and keep this nice and pithy to about 30 minutes.
All right.
That said, do tell me the switch, but also I want you, if you can, within this narrative, give my audience like tidbits, actions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is what I did,
okay.
And then this is why you potentially can consider doing that yourself because this is where, if that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So what happened was, I took you up to second year.
Yeah, for sure.
Now what happened is end of
don't rush it. Let's enjoy it because it's a great story. Do you know what I mean?
So during second year, I maybe do like 2 or 3 shows here and there. Like I'm starting bit by bit. Towards the end of second year, I see I'm starting to do a few more shows.
And where you getting booked? Because obviously first one was Bastion.
Yeah, so just any friend that I knew that was in the university, I was like, next time you're doing an event, just tell them to book me to do it. And I started hitting up.
So you went to clubs like ACS clubs, I assume?
ACS Society, yeah.
And you're just saying whenever you've done your event, listen, I do comedy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I came up with the uni crowd. That was my thing at the time. And not only that, I was also just hitting up all the comedians I knew on MySpace. Yeah, MySpace.
Yeah.
And I was like, Kojo was on MySpace. I was like, can I come and do your club at some point? Because he had a Kojo's Comedy Fun House.
Yeah.
Basically, I just wanted to get spots anywhere I could get on. I did all kinds of stuff. Some stuff that was just a complete waste of time, but I still did it.
Such as? Do you remember the story?
Like the worst one I ever did was an event, and this was actually booked by my friend Sam again.
Sam.
When it was called Rave with the Stars.
Okay.
And the idea was they were gonna bring all these Afrobeat stars, Idris Abdul Karim, D'banj, P Square. They were all gonna do this show in Manchester, and I was gonna do comedy.
Okay.
Worst idea. First of all, people are standing for a concert, and there's me
they
trying
want
to do
music.
jokes.
Yeah.
They want music. Second of all, they come to see stars. They don't know me, so they're not gonna give me a chance. Third of all, I wasn't that good at that time anyway.
Right.
At the time, obviously, I felt like I was good, but it was very much apparent that I did not have what it took to capture their attention while they are waiting for. It started late, and.
Did you get heckled and booed?
Yeah. People started screaming. People started chanting, P Square, P Square, P. I was on stage like, oh, my life. Look at my life. So,
yeah. So you kept on gigging.
It was wild, and I went off, and but I just did any show I could, and I was even when I had the bad shows, it would get me down, but I'd be like, bring it, like hit myself, like I'm down for this life, whatever it takes, I'm doing it.
This is all whilst you're still in your second year.
This is all while I'm in second year. So now exam second year hit, and I failed like 2 modules.
Okay.
And that was the beginning of the turning point. So that's like July, August, July you take the exams, by like August you find out that you failed. Not only that, I was applying for second year internships so that I'd have a job offer by the time I'm finished in third year, go straight into investment bank. And they were all like the 2 that I went for, the interviews that I went for, they both turned me down. And I stopped applying after a while because they both gave me the same feedback. They both said, we get the sense this isn't really what you want to do. Right. And that's partly because I decided within myself I was going to be honest in the interview. I was like, I know how to give interview answers. Everybody can go in and say, oh, I love finance, I read the Financial Times, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be honest with them. I love business. I love entrepreneurship. I also love stand-up comedy, man. I love stand-up comedy. So they all got the sense that that's not really what I do.
Yeah, of course.
And I was like, hold on a second. If they can see it, why am I lying to myself? Why am I trying to convince myself I want to do something I don't really want to do? Because I'm clearly doing it for the wrong reasons. It's clear as night and day to these people who are trained to pick the next best banker that
Ain't you?
That I'm not supposed to be. That's not my field. That's not what I'm supposed to be. I could probably have done the job, and I probably would have applied the same sort of analytical skills and been amazing at it, blah blah blah. If I decided that's what I was going to focus on, but that's not where I was supposed to be. I wasn't going to have the added influence of passion, and
that's important.
yeah, and that's very important. So throughout that summer, I didn't get any internships, and I failed a year. And I was like, I was still trying to keep my head up. Like, you know what? I'll retake the exams at the end of the year, but in that year out, I'm gonna like go get a big job in a bank, and I'm still gonna be like that guy. I want to do another qualification, whatever it takes.
What was it that was really making you adamant? I mean, it was quite as clear as day, as you said. Do you know what I mean? That banking wasn't for you. Those internships.
It was the fact that it felt like a failure.
Okay.
I don't accept failure well.
Right.
I'm like, I'm gonna leave on my terms. But it was almost as though this was the first time in my life I was having to deal with the fact that this decision is so like pivotal. This was like a real life decision, and I just really felt like God was trying to let me know it's out of your hands. Like you're trying to fight this, but the quicker you get with the program, the easier it's gonna be for you. And so, in many ways, I'm forever grateful that it was so difficult for me, because I was being hard-headed about it, because I felt like I was failing as opposed to I was really just readjusting.
Right.
So
you're saying when you took a year,
like,
sort of a year out,
yeah,
and you're saying you're gonna take the exams again.
I just decided, okay, well this is it. I'm just gonna work. I'm just gonna find a job somewhere. I just got a job. Because that summer, I fell apart. It was rock bottom. I was lying in bed almost all day, just watching 24.
Okay.
Just episode after episode, I was just buying Chinese takeaway and 2-liter bottles of Fanta Fruit Twist. And God! Didn't care about my body or anything. I was a mess. And then I was like, okay, so eventually I have to pick myself up. Just start working. Put some money aside. Really get yourself.
I asked how. How did you start picking yourself up? So you're working.
Partly it was my mum just trying to encourage me that, look, don't let this. You've always been an excellent person. This isn't like some. I felt like it was one big reveal that like, oh, I wasn't smart this whole time, and I've now been found out. I was just good at convincing people I was smart before, but she was like, don't accept that for yourself. You know. You are smart, you are exceptional, and you always have been. If this isn't what you want to do, that's fine, but don't let it like knock you out. So eventually I had to change my way of thinking, but then I did have like a life-changing moment, like an encounter with God, like that. I would put it as it started off with one Sunday I went to church, basically, and it was so that this was like by I think like October time. So I had so not even just that, comedy had started going badly as well. And I had a few bad shows on the trot.
A bad show being you being heckled and
not necessarily heckled, but just people. I did actually get heckled at a couple of them, but like just ones where it wasn't going so well. My jokes were landing, and I was like, but I was good at this. Like, so now I really just felt like I was completely down and out in life. So I was in church on Sunday, and the message was on like I think it was titled "It's Not Over Yet," and the whole message was like, you might be down and out right now, but God's about to do something great with you. And my mom like kind of looked at me like, are you listening, kind of thing. And this is the moment. And later on that night, I had a gig at Kojo's Comedy Funhouse. And I was on my way there, and I was in East Croydon Station, and a guy came up to me, sat down. He was like, oh, I see you're a Christian. I was trying to work out like how he knew, whatever. I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, did you go to church today? How was church? I was like, yeah, it was great. He's like, which church do you go to? I said, oh, it's in Streatham. I asked him which church he goes to. He's like, oh, it's just one in Brixton. So tell me, what did you learn today? And I started telling him everything it was. But as I was telling him, I was almost like speaking to myself as well. Like, and it kind of applies to me. And it was so important for me to hear it because, you know, I'm going through like a tough time and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, he was like, oh, so where are you headed now? Like, I'm off to a comedy show. I'm just hoping that this one's going to be a turnaround, blah, blah, blah. He was like, where's the comedy show? I was like, okay, cool. So we're having this conversation, and all the time I'm talking to him, like people are looking at us weird, and I just paid no attention to it. And then he goes, oh, by the way, what's the time? So I looked up, I looked down at my wrist, and I looked up at the display, and I turned back to tell him the time, and he disappeared. And I was like, come on now, what's this? And I realized my train was waiting there, but I looked around like, where's this guy? Why would he just run off like this? And I was like, really spooked out, like, I've been talking to somebody that clearly I could see. That's why people were looking at us weird, but I was, and this was like really real for me. Like I was like looking up and down the platform for this guy, I was looking up and down the train. I was like, I must see this guy somewhere. And I was just like, wow, okay. So I went from there. I had a great show that night. I had great shows next, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then like on the Tuesday, I had like a repeat of a dream I'd seen, and some guy sat down next to me while I was reading a law textbook, one of the modules I had to retake. And he was like, you know you're great, right? Anyway, it was just like, for someone that was down and out, believing that like, oh, it's pretty much all done for me. It was like, wow, this is a real sort of undeniable change in my life story, you know, when I'm having all these sort of supernatural moments. And I just, like, I really got on my grind from there. That's when I decided I'm going to get everyone together. I'm going to put on my own show, and I'm going to shoot my first DVD, which is what I did.
Nice.
On the 1st of August, 2008, I shot 21, that's what I called it. And that was a life-changing moment for me. I even said it at the end of the DVD that I feel like that was the moment I committed to doing stand-up. So I was like, well, okay, well, here's the plan. I'm going to go back to uni because I don't like leaving things undone. I'm going to finish the degree as best I can. You know, I probably was sitting like a third at that point. But I'm like, turn that around. And I ended up with like a 2-2, which I was still not 100% happy with. But I was like, well, that was the aim, was to go and finish it.
Yeah.
And do the best I could to sort of turn it around. And then once you're done with that, full throttle comedy.
Amazing.
And I was like, this is my life now. This is it.
I mean, I get it, and I'm hoping the listeners also get it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's very palpable that comedy is your passion and is your driving force into your life. And some of the bits that you've mentioned in terms of how someone can possibly emulate is A, do as much research, live it, watch it, passion. Secondly, you went to all the communities, like the uni communities and events, and said, this is what I do. This is what I do.
Trying to make it happen any which way.
And so people were booking you, and that's how you were getting a little bit of change to do what you were doing. Like they'll send you up to Manchester, etc. Yeah. How'd you get to America?
So America actually was just a matter of, well, she was my friend, then she later on became my girlfriend. She was going to America anyway. She was like, do you want to come for the Obama inauguration? I was like, hell yeah, I'm not going to miss that moment in history. Of course, I'm going to go. And so when I agreed to go and I bought my ticket and everything, I was like, well, I might as well try and do comedy, because obviously comedy was everything to me. So I had like contacts here who knew contacts there, and just put everything together, and basically I got booked on a show.
Nice.
In DC, and I did that, and it just, the first thing my girlfriend then said to me was, well, you know, now you started, you have to come back again. Like, this can't be it. So I was like, yeah, I guess this is it now. So I'm really like involved. So after doing that, I was super pumped. Like, I can go to America. I can do spots there as well. Yeah. I can think beyond, you know, the uni shows and stuff. And I think the year out kind of taught me that uni is a bit of a bubble. You know, it's great for harvesting and growing and incubating, but you need to be able to break out of uni, because one day uni is going to spit you out, and most people have no like real world preparation. I've had preparation now going from taking a talent, developing it, and then marketing myself worldwide. Even though on a small scale, it was just doing one show in DC, but it was now a matter of realizing that the world is what you make of it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, if you want to do this comedy thing, think outside the box, push, try and find an avenue, make it happen. And so I saved up the rest of my student loan from the third term, and I said, you know, I'm not going to spend too much. First thing I did was buy my ticket to New York. So it was my graduation present to myself. As soon as I graduated, I was going to go spend 4 weeks in New York, and that's what I did. Okay. And that was my sort of baptism into, like, now it's deciding I'm going to become a full-time stand-up.
Nice.
And 4 weeks in New York was everything I needed.
Brilliant. Okay, Ola, so I do definitely need to wrap this up now. I want to ask two things.
Yeah.
It's quite saturated, the entertainment industry, when it comes down to ethnics like the BME community. So what are that challenges from a black UK perspective are you finding? And also I want you to also tell us about your mission about stay gigging. Do you know what I mean? To wrap that up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the challenges with like being of an ethnic minority in this country is that you kind of find yourself a comedian. You kind of find yourself in a weird place because, if I'm honest, I make most of my money performing to mostly white audiences because one, they're the majority, and two, I want to be one of the greatest comedians who ever lived. So I don't want that to be contextualized within a black context. I want it to be one of the greatest, undeniable. So it just means by numbers I'm going to end up performing in front of white people most. But white people are still very protected in this country as to what they can relate to. Every night I make a room full of white people laugh. And I go and sit down with a white TV executive and they pretend like all of a sudden now I'm an alien because white people can only really relate to someone who's exactly like them. So they're more likely to keep churning out middle-class white boys because they're the ones who are holding the wealth and power in the country. So they'll churn out stuff that looks like them. Yeah. Right? So for me, I'm going through it in the sense that I know this country will never 100% accept me as one of the lads. It's always with a but. So I've come to accept that now. So it's like when you think British comedian, they're never just going to say me. It has happened to me before that I've sort of been put forward as an example of British comedian, but usually it's kind of like British Nigerian or Black British or young upcoming British blah blah blah. There's always like some extra they have to put on it. So for me, having to understand that means that you're never going to get that normality. You're never going to get that official stamp of like you are the leading household name when it comes to comedy. It's most likely going to be someone like Michael McIntyre time and time again. Yeah. That's who looks official. Then on top of that, it also means that I have the double-ended struggle, which means with my own people, I don't quite fit in because my people have a very narrow view of what it means to be black and a comedian. Right? We haven't necessarily allowed ourselves a whole range of diversity in our own talents because we've often confused uniformity for unity. We're trying to be unified, but we almost then enforce all people to be uniform for us to be unified, which is not true. Yeah, you're just as black if you like death metal. Yeah, you don't have to adhere to the stereotypes. Exactly. Yeah. So like hip hop isn't wrong, but at the same time you don't have to like hip hop. But for us, we almost sort of just say, well, there's only one way to be black. So it extends to comedy as well, in the sense that if I don't fit the high energy, highly acted out, certain very narrow view of topics, then I'm not necessarily good for black comedy shows anymore. So it's finding my audience is always going to be the toughest part. Yeah. And the internet kind of helps in the sense that you can kind of go direct to consumer, but only certain things do really well on the internet. It's usually like shock, scandal, outrage, all those kind of things. If you're just trying to put out good content, it's hard. It's very easy to get lost. There's so much stuff going on the internet. So in many ways, that's the problem I'm facing being an ethnic manager, is trying to find my audience. And the truth is, my audience is going to be like the people I started off with, educated young black people, like the people in the universities I started off performing to. But then it's also middle-aged white people that, populate a lot of the shows that I perform at now and come up to me and say they love me and they buy my DVD. But it's like, how do I collate all of these? Whereas if I had the official stamp of those in power, I would just be on TV and then everyone would automatically flock because you've got that official stamp. Yeah. I'm trying to prove that without the stamp. And then your second question was about stay gigging, right? And stay gigging.
Guys, let me just explain that. I mean, I'm looking at Ola right now and he's got a beanie hat with the hashtag stay gigging. Yeah. And when I first met him, he pretty much, that's what he spat at me, and I was like, yeah, I'm feeling this guy. So yeah, tell me about your stay gigging philosophy.
I've staked my whole career on a bit of an idealistic belief that in the end, my dedication, my passion, and talent, and hard work, and whatever is all going to shine through, way beyond and all of the fluff. Because to be honest, I could get hundreds of thousands of followers one day if I just like start doing some wild stuff.
Yeah.
You know, people become famous for doing crimes. People become famous for
Having a sex tape. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you could do whatever it is, but what I'm betting on quality. I'm betting that diligence in my work is what is going to eventually make me count. So what I've often tried to encourage myself, which is why I try and put it out there for other people as well, is that as long as I stay gigging, as long as I keep working, I keep getting up, keep going to the comedy clubs, keep churning out good material, good content, I keep improving, keep getting better, the day will come and I will be ready. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, for sure.
There's many times you can get sidetracked and you can get almost discouraged. You feel like, maybe I have to change, maybe I have to go be like this person who's doing really well. And now try and remind myself that no, just stay gigging. And I wanted people to know me for that. I wanted people to know me as somebody who is relentless with his work, diligent with his work. Like, he's not a comedian just for the sake of he wanted to get on guest lists to go to parties and he wanted to get girls or whatever it was. This is somebody that was down for stand-up. You see what I'm saying? So
I hear that.
When I put it out there as stay gigging, it can then be sort of widened out and extrapolated for other people's lives. You know, there's people out there who are doing all kinds of things with excellence and they're not quite getting the recognition they deserve now. But what I wanted to do was encourage those people that the world needs you to continue to be excellent. You see what I'm saying? Like, whatever it is, even with your podcast, someone needs you. You could cut a bunch of corners. You could be like, I don't really care too much about getting decent sound equipment. You could be like, I don't really care too much about who I get on, as long as it's big. I just want it to be big. You could talk a whole heap of nonsense and fill people's heads with all kinds of madness, but someone needed you to get out there and go and find positive black stories and to be excellent in what you're doing. Someone needed you to put Blacticulate together, to inspire them to think about black in terms of action and being articulate all together as one thing. Someone needs that. And that's the reason why I talk about living a life of purpose, and I talk about not wanting to be forgotten and having that legacy. It's about excellence. It's about diligence, and it's about
stay gigging. Ola, that is just amazing. So how can we find you and how can we support?
Ola the Comedian, man. Ola the Comedian and everything. My DVD is out. My current DVD is called The Comedian and His Future Wife. It's quite a deep show. It's about my search for a wife, and I've tried to write it like in a very layered way, so you get a lot out of it. Put it that way. It's not just a bunch of slapdash jokes. I really like tweaked it, and you can see on the extras like I really put work into it. So yeah, I really want people to go out and support that. Watch it, tell someone else about it. The Comedian and His Future Wife. You can get it from olathecomedian.com. It's available as a digital download as well as DVD. So whether you want the physical copy or the digital copy, you can get it. And yeah, just like interact with me, man. I like talking to people. I like discussion. I like growth. I like knowledge. I like people who kick knowledge. I like people who bring the wisdom. So hit me up, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, and let's connect, man.
Yeah, amazing. Well, once again, Ola the Comedian, thanks very much for coming on Blacticulate.
Thank you, Adi, man. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, we really appreciate you listening, and if you have any feedback, please leave it in the comment section below. Also, all the info about the guests, the links and the resources we speak about will be in the description below. And last but not least, please do get in touch if you can teach us how you do what it is you do. Because after all, Blacticulate is all about empowering and upskilling the community. Thanks guys, you're the best. See you soon.